If you were offered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to travel across the world to visit the set of your favorite television show, what would you do? It may seem like a simple hop, skip, and a jump across the pond, but the reality is that you have to deal with airports, bus rides, and a completely different world to your own. Which might not sound too crazy, but the thing is, this YouTuber is completely scared of flying and has never left the country. So we're here to break down the mistakes made, what I should have done, and how to beat a crazy, once-in-a-lifetime adventure on the actual set of Game of Thrones. I am so excited to finally tell you guys about this amazing adventure that I got to participate in that's been months in the making. Earlier this year, I was approached by the Game of Thrones Legends team to partake in the coolest rollout for a video game ever. The only hitch was that it would take place in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and I am terrified of flying. But this was too cool of an opportunity to pass up. The Game of Thrones Legends team invited me, Screen Crush, Film Theorists, All Me, and Deerstalker Pictures to participate in a special event at the actual studio where Game of Thrones was filmed, and compete in a set of wild tasks over the course of one unforgettable weekend. And what's even better, you can catch that video over on the Deerstalker Pictures YouTube channel. But before we get ahead of ourselves talking about this insane trip, I gotta tell you about the game. Game of Thrones Legends is an epic puzzle-based RPG that allows you to team up iconic characters, such as Jon Snow with Rhaenyra Targaryen, forging an unstoppable team. You can level up your character through dope PvP battles and equip your team with different types of gear to enhance their abilities. I mean, this game is awesome, and if you're about to hit the road on an epic adventure, it's the perfect way to spend your travel time. But getting back to the trip, I don't know if you've flown lately, but them airports be wild. As this was my first time flying internationally, I was a little bit concerned. Luckily, my producer got us on another flight, and I just got to spend more time playing Game of Thrones Legends. After arriving in Dublin, we caught a quick bus up to Belfast in Northern Ireland. The bus ride was boring as but again, more time to game. Once we got to Belfast, I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe I was in a new country. So I don't know if you know this, but jet lag can be an absolute killer. Thankfully, I knew exactly what to do in order to conquer it, and here are those steps. Drink water. Many people don't think about drinking water as they travel, but dehydration can be a real killer. A lot of times, you either have to pay for a bottle of water, or if it isn't readily available, you need to be sure to bring an empty water bottle with you through airport security and fill it up whenever you get the chance. Staying hydrated throughout the day will help minimize your chances of jet lag. Adapt to the local time zone. Listen, when I got off the plane, I was sleepy as hell. But it's super important to try and adjust your body clock to your local time zone. Even if you're tired, it's good to stay awake until what would be bedtime in your new time zone. This will help minimize jet lag and get you set for the rest of your trip. And lastly, move around. Yeah, moving your body and shaking off the however many hours you had of sitting still on an international flight is key. So once I dropped my stuff off at the hotel, it was time to hit the streets. Of course, I got a little bit more gaming in on the cab ride into the city center. I had just gotten my first legendary character of Ghost and needed to upgrade him. But once we got to the CBD, we just explored the beautiful city. Like I said, I'd never been abroad, so everything was new to me. Old buildings, awesome Irish accents, and people driving on the wrong side of the road. It was all amazing. I met up with some fans of the show, got some dinner, and then got to an authentic pub. We met some really interesting people and had an amazing time. If you're going to beat a completely new experience, you gotta make sure you're willing to put yourself out there in an uncomfortable situation and take it all in. I was nervous about the trip, but I said to myself, what would Jon Snow do? And at this point, if you haven't already downloaded the game from the link in the video description, what the heck are you waiting for? The next day, I got to explore the city some more and check out the sights. Belfast and the surrounding area has such a fascinating history, and I wanted to soak in as much of it as possible during my short stay. I got to check out the Ulster Museum, where they had these dope wicker dragons, a place called Dragon Records, the shipyard where the Titanic was built, and these dope Game of Thrones stained glass windows that were all about the city. But the real fun started that evening when I finally got to meet up with the other creators who were invited to participate in the event. My fellow contestants in the game show were Ryan Airy from Screen Crush, Forrest Lee from Film Theorists, and Carrie Stagmer from All Me. And then there was the team from Deerstalker Pictures, which included Zach and Alessa, the hosts, and Pat and Kendall, who would show up as Game of Thrones characters later in the show. We all hopped on a bus out to the Game of Thrones studio where our adventure would really begin. Arriving at the studio, I was absolutely blown away by everything. The lobby alone had some amazing costumes from the show, and these cool height measurements that let you compare your size to the characters from the world of Game of Thrones. As you can see, I'm not quite Hodor height. I'm more of a Daenerys Targaryen-sized guy. Yeah. Then we got to the main tour area of the studio, and you guys, it was amazing! There were all these costumes and sets from the Game of Thrones universe. What's even cooler is that I just spent the whole flight over leveling up my characters in Game of Thrones Legends to have some of these costumes and weapons and doing battles at these actual sets. And then to get to see them in real life was just mind-blowing. Here's the Lord of Bones, and over here is the Night King.
Have you ever wanted to kill a White Walker? All you need is this thing right here. That's right, it's the Long Claw.
And then there's Arya's Needle.
Sticking with the pointy end.
This place was just life-changing. I was so stoked to explore and even more stoked to be participating in the shoot the following day, where I would battle my fellow creators in the game and to test our Game of Thrones knowledge. So the day of the actual show arrived, and boy, let me tell you, I was not nervous. Like, this was a huge production, and I wanted to make sure that I was ready to participate in all of the events the Game of Thrones Legends team had in store. So you know your boy was playing that game 24/7. The only part that I hadn't mastered yet was the raids, so I was focusing on that element to prep for the shoot. At this point though, I was squatted up. I had Ned Stark, Ghost, Daenerys, and Tyrion in my lineup. Now once the show got started though, all those nerves went away. It was such a blast. We did a few rounds of buzzer thriving. We talked about some Easter eggs and little known facts. We showed off our different champion rosters and discussed our playing style. Mine is almost pure brute force. And there was even a murder mystery. If you haven't already checked that video out, you have to see it. It's live over on the Deerstalker Pictures channel, and the link is in the description to this video. Seriously, come check it out. The video is just epic, and I can't wait for you to see it. But all good things must come to an end, and I had to eventually say goodbye to all of my new friends and the Game of Thrones studio and head back to America. It was bittersweet, but it was such a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I was incredibly thankful for it. The trip back was also pretty crazy. I had a few canceled flights and ended up getting stuck in Washington, D.C. for an extra day. Thankfully, I had Game of Thrones Legends on my phone and I could spend those 34 travel hours playing away. So if you haven't already figured out that Game of Thrones Legends is an epically fun game, download it now via the QR code or link in the description and get 50 gold, 3,000 food, and a daily summon token to start your journey. Thanks again to Game of Thrones Legends for inviting me to participate in this epic adventure. And don't forget to watch the live show on the Deerstalker Pictures channel. And remember guys, have a damn good day.